Now, when you introduce yourself, do you believe that people should have a sales pitch or they should just introduce themselves?
I believe you should introduce yourself and have a sales pitch. For me, I try to engage in the discussion by building a relationship before I get to the formal sales pitch. But yes, we should all have an elevator pitch that we're ready to give at any time.
Wow, I want to welcome you, our guest today, Jeff Bowe. How are you?
I'm great. Great to be here.
Welcome. I'm so excited to have you today, especially with today's topic. I just want you to take a moment just to introduce yourselves to our viewers.
Okay, great. Well, my name is Jeff Bowe. I'm a full-time business faculty member at Catawba College, and I come before that about 25 years in the business world of owning different kind of businesses, including 12 years as a sales trainer where I worked with numbers of clients on how to improve their sales skills, to improve their profit margins, and build better relationships really with their customers.
Well, you're definitely the right person for us to discuss today's topic, which is elevator pitch. Mm-hmm. And I'm so excited. And again, thank you so much. Mm-hmm. Today, what we're going to discuss, the purpose of an introduction, the importance of an introduction, and personal branding. I love this one, personal branding.
That's very important. We all have a personal brand. It's just a matter of do we know it or not, and can we control it?
Exactly. So before anything, I love for us to define the topic that we're going to discuss. And today, as I mentioned, we're going to discuss elevator pitch. An elevator pitch is basically an opportunity for you to introduce yourself to someone within a short period of time. Now, elevator pitch came off that they said, how can you introduce yourself quickly in an elevator ride?
Right.
So it's quite interesting.
Right. The idea is that if you were to step on an elevator by yourself, and just as the door is closed, the CEO of your best prospect just walks in the door, and you cannot get you've never been able to get a phone call back from this person. You now have from the ground floor to the top floor to impress upon this person why he should ask you to come in his office and talk to him. Mm-hmm. So you've got roughly 10, 12, 15 seconds to make that person say, oh my God, I need to meet with you. Can you come see me? That's the purpose.
So you're basically talking about the importance of the elevator pitch. Could you elaborate a little bit more about the importance of an elevator pitch?
Well, what it really does is it should really help you focus your business down into your key, unique differentiation aspects of your business. What makes you truly different than anybody else? So when that CEO hears what you have to say in 10 or 12 or 15 seconds, he or she, and I'll say he broadly, will go, oh my God, that's what I'm looking for. But you've got to actually talk about your business in a way that that person is interested and excited about it, which means it's not about you, it's about them. We'll talk about that more here, I'm sure, in a few minutes.
Okay. So when you say that so many people have a challenge introducing themselves to someone they're not comfortable with, so definitely there's some disasters when you're introducing yourself. Yep. Give us some disasters in reference to an elevator pitch.
Well, of course, some of the worst ones are the people who just keep talking and talking and talking, and you're going like this, and you're waiting for your phone to ring or anything, and just anything to get me out of this situation. Or they're all about me. Well, I'm vice president of this company. I've done this and I do this, and really, quite frankly, they don't care. Mm-hmm. So your bad elevator pitches are always all about the person giving them, and that's not what an elevator pitch should be about. An elevator pitch should be about you, the person hearing it, and why this is something you want to hear. Mm-hmm.
So saying that, then give us some tips of actually developing an elevator pitch.
Well, I think the whole key is to start with the end in mind. You have to remember that you're trying to get into a conversation with the CEO. Mm-hmm. And that CEO has a lot of things on his mind every day. You've got to break through all that clutter just like this and get to the top of his mind. So you want to start with not what do I say right now, you want to start with what do I want to talk about later on. Mm-hmm. And then use a process to get back to what do I have to say now. But you're starting with the very end in mind. So if you think about that, what you're looking for is identifying the conversation.
Okay.
And you remember that a conversation is a dialogue between two people. So when you think of a dialogue being two people talking, you also want to remember, you want to get this other person engaged right now. So for example, if I want to get you engaged in a conversation, what's the best thing for me to do for you if I want to start you talking with me?
Honestly?
Yeah.
Well, to talk about my son.
Okay. So basically, I need to ask you some kind of question to get you engaged. An elevator pitch does the same thing. It's about getting the other person engaged in a conversation using questions. If we think about it, what's really boring is to hear one person just talk. Now, if we watch late night TV, we watch the monologues. But those are professional speakers and professional actors and actresses, and they're really good at the monologue for 5 or 7, 10 minutes maybe. Most of us aren't that good. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to engage this other person in a dialogue, which means we're both talking back and forth with each other, kind of what I refer to as like a friendly badminton game. I say something, and you say something, and I say something, and we're engaged in a dialogue, which means both people are speaking.
Now, when I do an elevator pitch, I usually start with a story. So what's your thoughts about that?
Stories are good. You want to create a story that the other person can see themselves in. So that it's not a story about me, it's a story about my client, or one of my clients, because they want to see themselves receiving the benefits you're talking about.
Right. And I believe that everyone remembers a story. So sometimes I think there's a method of trying to develop an elevator pitch, as we're talking about, and it's really understanding how you feel comfortable. So it's important, like you said, to have that dialogue.
Right.
But sometimes people could start off with a story, and as you mentioned, that the person can actually relate to see themselves in that same position.
Right.
So I know as a facilitator of a networking event, sometimes someone could put you to sleep with their elevator pitch. So what do you say about that?
Well, unfortunately, what they usually are doing, they're usually talking all about me. And some of the bad things I hear are people start off with their name and their title. Well, titles are nice, but frankly, I don't care what your title is. The only person that cares about your title is your spouse, maybe somebody you're dating, and your boss. Beyond that, nobody cares what your title is. And that's all about me. What I'm interested in is, why does somebody actually pay you money? Why does somebody engage you? What is it that's different about you? You say you run a networking event, so you know that in any one room at any one time, you may have several people who do something very similar. And each of these people have to understand, how can I attract attention to myself in a positive way by being different and unique?
So I'm not really sure if you were thinking about going a little bit further, but what's your elevator pitch?
Well, I typically tell people that at Catawba College, we help busy adults finish that lifelong dream of a college education. And if you listen to that, I've encapsulated in that one sentence my target market, which is busy adults. And we've talked about the benefit to them, which is that lifelong dream, which makes it personal. And then I talked just briefly about what the tool is, which is a college education. So it's broad, but it's also very specific, because if you're not a busy adult, for the part of the school that I work with, not that I don't want to talk to you, but my target market are the busy adults. So if you're an 18 to 22-year-old, not that we're not interested, but for me in my particular role, that's not my target market.
Now, most of our viewers are professionals, individuals, entrepreneurs, students, and so forth. So sometimes you'll hear a student or a mom who says, I don't really need to have an elevator pitch. So what are your thoughts about that?
Well, that's a pretty bad assumption, because if you think about somebody who is in college and they're going to start interviewing, I've actually done this presentation to college students, because the college student, when they start interviewing, the first thing they're going to do is start networking. They're going to go out meeting people. So let's say you're at church this Sunday, and your mom says, oh, my son's about to graduate from Catawba College, of course. And that person says, oh, what do you want to do? Well, that's your cue right then. You should have an elevator pitch if you're a graduating student coming up anytime in the near future. Because that person's asking you, who are you? Why would I want to talk to you? Why might I want to hire you? So the elevator pitch really is that personal brand for me to introduce who I am, what I'm all about. So the college students need an elevator pitch. The self-employed professional needs an elevator pitch. Really, I teach marketing, and in marketing, everybody's involved in the marketing company. So everybody in the company needs to understand, what is it about our company that makes us stay in business? And that's what's encapsulated in an elevator pitch. So I think everyone needs one. Some are going to be better than others, and some will be directly related to what they do on a daily basis, like a salesperson. Other people, it will be more operational, because they're not maybe engaged in generating revenue on a minute-by-minute basis.
Okay, so what I'm sensing so far is basically you have to identify where you are, what you're looking for, what are your goals, what are your plans, that you're trying to engage yourself with other individuals.
Sure.
Because you need to understand when you're going to introduce yourself to a prospective employer or a parents group, you really need to know what is the message that you're trying to share and how are you trying to engage this individual. Because sometimes it's not getting a client, it's maybe developing a network, those relationship building. So you definitely have to capture someone's attention. So
it's about being memorable in a good way.
Okay, so what is that one sentence that you think someone should think about, or how do you put together that sentence to capture someone's attention?
Well, I think, again, you kind of think with the end in mind, which is, why do clients really come to us? What do they really get when they work with us? And that's what I need to start talking about now. And I'm not going to talk about it. I'm going to allude to it. And there's a big difference. If I start telling people right now in the first 10 seconds what we do, they don't care. If I talk about the benefit that somebody gets out of working with us, for example, accomplishing that lifelong dream, well, that's an end result. That's a goal. That's what a client or a customer gets down here someplace. How we get there is not the conversation for right now. That's the conversation we're going to have when you call me up and say, I want you to come in my office. The goal of the elevator pitch is to get that appointment or get that meeting, whether it be an interview or an appointment to sell or look for an opportunity to sell. So the elevator pitch sets the framework, sets the groundwork for why we should spend 30 minutes to 2 hours together. So in that process, I'm trying to deliver one or two very succinct thoughts about why people reach in their pocket, pull out their hard-earned money, and give it to us.
And that's really important because very often facilitating my networking group, I hear people in their elevator pitch as going directly into, I have this widget, buy this widget, it's all about this widget. And internally, I'm like, say something else besides buy my widget. Of course, you're looking for a customer or someone who might be interested in your product or services. But personally, I tune you out.
You do.
And
we all do.
We all do. And they'll say, no, that's not true. When I hear someone, they introduce themselves and they say, I have 5 businesses, and if you're looking for it, I need customers, and I have great deals. I don't hear you anymore. So I think it's really important that people understand what you're sharing today. It's really important, the elevator pitch, to know how it could impact your business, your growth, your personal development. And it also identifies, do you know your own plan? Do you know your direction? Do you know why you're building relationships?
And that's what your business is all about. But you know, the thing what you're talking about is called the target market. And that's that thing that nobody services everybody. Even the biggest retailer in the world does not sell to everybody, and they know that.
Jeff, don't go there, because that's one of my pet peeves that when I hear everyone say, well, everyone's my customer, and I'm like, oh, no.
No, even the biggest retailer in the world knows that they have a target market. So in your framing statement or beginning of your elevator pitch, you should identify your target market like I did. We work with the busy adult. That's our target market. In my previous business, when I was doing full-time sales training, I would say we help salespeople. Well, again, that's our target market. So if you're not in sales, you don't care that we help you turn valuable prospects into profitable clients, because our target market was salespeople, not customer service people, not operations people. We worked with the salesperson. So we're identifying in that one beginning line who is of interest to us. And if they're not in that target market, that's okay. But if they are in that target market, they're going to hear themselves right now and go, wait a minute, that's me. I'm a salesperson. And turning valuable prospects into profitable clients, oh my word, that's what I do all day long. And I'm speaking their language. And you're right, so many people don't get that.
And I think it's important to say that even though you identify your target market, I know who my market is, who I want to serve. However, let's say I get someone outside of my target market. It's not that you can't serve them or sell to them, but it's to understand where you're going to put your energy and your focus. And I believe as you develop your brand, because we're talking about the elevator pitch, which helps with your personal brand, that your brand will speak for itself. And that's when you will get others outside of your target market that will look and seek to develop a relationship with you. And that's really goes into how effective your brand, your elevator pitch is coming across to your network. So how can your elevator pitch help you dominate the market then? I think we've touched base, but if we could just go into it a little bit more.
It comes back to understanding who your target market is, first of all. If you don't have a clear picture of the market you want to dominate, it's very difficult to create a framing statement that addresses it. So the first thing you want to do is identify, of everybody out there that you could work with, how do I, in the most narrow possible fashion, define my target market? Which is opposite what most people think. Most people think they want to identify this really big market, and that's not true. It's very expensive, very difficult to serve big markets.
Yes.
It's much easier if you can define your market narrowly, because the more narrowly you can define your market, the more specifically you can address them. So the first thing is to understand you want a narrow target market. You want to look at that conversation you want to have at the end, and then put those two together as you work towards that good introduction.
I want you to touch base again about saving money, because very often I work with small business owners, and when I talk to them about understanding their target market, the challenge they'll say, listen, Joyce, I need to generate income
Sure
to be
you do.
able to pay
Yep.
for my expenses, and I totally understand that. However, when you don't identify your target market, as you mentioned, you're going to reach out to the mass, which is going to cost you a lot of
Right.
money. It's going to take a lot of time. And if you identify your market to understand how you want to introduce yourself to your market, you will save time and money
Right.
to eventually make more money.
Right.
Don't you agree?
Especially today. If this was 40 years ago, there were 3 TV channels. So you could reach virtually the entire population on 3 TV channels. Today, we have hundreds of cable channels. We have satellite radio, which doesn't even have advertising sometimes. We have billboards, we have internet, and we have millions of internet sites. We have all kinds of magazines and newsletters, which are very niche oriented. So today, there is no one way you can get to every person in a market. So if you were thinking about needing to get to every person in, say, Charlotte, there is no one medium you can use today that will address everybody in that market. There's no way to get to them. So because of that, it's both a good and a bad news situation. If you can narrowly identify your target market, that target market probably has one medium that they're going to watch or listen to on a regular basis, because it's focused on them. So for example, if you want to address, hypothetically, people who drive motorcycles, who are 50 and older, well, that tells you that it's going to be someplace or something that has probably to do with motorcycles. And it's not going to be the motorcyclist who's 22, which also takes you away from certain TV shows or radio stations or types of magazines or newsletters. And it takes you into a different demographic and therefore a different population, and different places they're going to get news, different places they're going to get information. So if you can say, yeah, I sell to motorcycles, but I actually sell to cruisers who are over 50, you've taken this motorcycle population and you've cut off high performance sport bikes, shall we say. We'll use a proper term for them. And you've taken off the people who are under 50, and now you've made your market something that you can manage. And it's now cost effective, because if I had to get to the entire motorcycle market, I'm talking 50 publications. Or if I'm talking about this market, maybe I'm talking about 2. So your point on value and able to afford it, much easier when you can narrowly define that best market.
And it all starts off with the elevator pitch,
It does.
because it starts off the way you introduce yourself, which leads into the perception. If you don't have a good elevator pitch, you could leave a negative perception about you, your brand, and your business.
Right, that's true. Jerry Garcia, Grateful Dead, great marketing genius, he actually said, it's not important to be known for what you do, it's important to be known as the only person who does what you do, roughly paraphrased. And when you can be perceived as the only person who does what you do, you said a minute ago something very important. The person I'm talking to may not be in my target market, but they know people in my target market. And at some point, at church, at the store, at a party, someone's going to say something, and that conversation is going to come up to what I do. And that person needs to be able to remember who I am.
That's right.
If I have a powerful elevator pitch that sticks in their mind because I narrowly define what I do and who I do it with, that person can say, I met somebody like that 2 months ago, and I remember them.
Exactly.
Because I didn't go on and on like this and give them 35 minutes of nothingness.
Right.
I gave them one sentence that struck them right like this about